Hi, everybody. This is Megan,
And this is Stephen.
and this is the Synchrony podcast, where we talk about transforming apostolic dating culture and ending loneliness in the church. I was coaching Stephen a minute ago not to fill his cheeks with coffee when he drinks because he looks sort of like a chipmunk for when he does it, and on camera it just reads a little awkward.
Well, we'll see. I don't know if I can not be awkward, so we'll see.
Yeah, it's okay. It's true to form. This is a good time for us to shout out to our partners at Cafe 117. Cheers. Thank you to Cafe 117 for partnering with us to get the word out about their amazing coffee and their mission and our mission. Cafe 117 is an apostolic-owned coffee company where you can get your premium blends and single origin roasts delivered directly to you. It's really cool. You can have a subscription if you struggle with executive function like me, and they will ship you delicious coffee. 20% of their proceeds go directly to Compassion Services International, which help with disaster relief in all different places around the world. And their coffee is delicious. And if you check the description, you can get a discount on yours.
Bow chicka wow wow.
I don't know if we can say that. Are we allowed to say that?
Why?
I thought that was like a spicy thing. Is it
Oh,
a spicy thing?
to each their own.
If that was offensive to anyone, we apologize. We don't know slang. We live under a rock. Yeah.
It's true.
We're both kind of low on bandwidth tonight, babe.
Yep.
It's been a long week.
Yep. Get good sleep last night.
We did not. We had small feet and hands kicking us and hitting us in the face because our kids both ended up coming and getting us in the middle of the night, and does not make for a restful evening.
Nope, not at all.
But we're excited to sit down and podcast. And what I did, because I did not have the brain power to like do another data dive, was I went to our amazing Instagram community and I asked for their help. So we're going to be talking about dating cliches, the things that people say to single people about dating. You've heard them 100 times. And what I want us to do is rate them.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll take turns maybe like drawing a cliche out of the hat and reading it, and then we'll rate. I'm going to give, let's put it on a 1 to 5 scale.
1 to 5. 5
Yeah.
being the best.
Yeah, let's say 5 is like golden advice that you should absolutely take to heart. And 1 is like, please forget you ever heard this.
Okay. And the goal of this tonight is to just cringe at people's advice.
No, it's more just to talk about like the things that people hear all the time and what isn't helpful. Because not everyone who listens to our podcast is single. Some folks are married. So if you're a married person listening to this, use this to appreciate that your single friends might not need to hear these phrases from you over and over again.
Also, if you end up not hearing advice that you've heard, go ahead and throw it in the comments, and maybe we'll do a part 2 to this.
Yeah, that'd be fun. But if you are a single person, it's a good opportunity to sort of consider just like the common ideas that are sort of floating around that people have about dating, and just remind yourself what is and isn't really based in scriptural or cultural fact, I think.
Sure.
All right, do you want to draw the first one?
Oh, okay.
We're using my sparkly baseball hat.
They stick.
They do stick. I'm sorry. You're going to have to unfold it strategically.
All right. This is a good one.
Uh-huh.
One you hear all the time.
Okay.
God will give you the desires of your heart.
Oh, I'm glad we're starting with this one so I can get it out of the way. Let's even ask first. How do you rate this on a scale of 1 to 5?
Truthfulness. I think it's taken out of context.
Yeah.
But I think it's still good advice because I think God does want us to have good things. But there's a caveat to it. You have to know what your desires are.
Oh, first, what's your ranking on a scale from 1 to 5?
3.
Okay.
I'm right down the middle with this one.
That's fine. I'm going to put it as a 2 because of what you said about the misallocation or the misappropriation of it. I think that I don't necessarily think it's about God granting us what we want.
Yeah, he's not a genie.
Yeah, like it's not about the Lord just us making like a wish list
Yeah.
or that list that some of us made when we were 16 and like put in our journals, right?
Yeah. I think it's more of a, yeah, I don't think it's as simple as that. And I think there's a lot of work that goes into getting to the point of where you're getting the desires of your heart. I think there's a lot of self-reflection. I think there's a lot of work. I think there's a lot of sacrifice that goes behind that as well.
Well, and some, I've heard ministry interpret the scripture to mean not that God will give you what you want, but that God will teach you to want the things that he wants you to
Yeah,
want, right?
exactly.
So he'll give you the desires, he'll teach your heart what to desire. So anyway, I
Yeah.
think I don't love that that's constantly quoted at singles to
Yeah,
mean
that's true.
that God's going to give them the spouse of their dreams, because
Yeah.
it makes it
Yeah.
sound like he's just going to open up the heavens and like,
Yeah.
you know.
And it makes it seem like you don't have to work,
Yeah.
you know?
Right, my turn. I should not have folded these. Yeah, this is a common one too. There's plenty of fish in the sea.
Oh, yeah.
Plenty of fish.
Plenty of fish.
That's a dating site, isn't it? Plenty of fish. I'm pretty sure it's a Christian dating site.
I don't know.
Or a dating site. I don't know if it's Christian or not.
Never used dating sites, so I wouldn't know.
I should research that. I feel like we should know these things. How do you feel about that one? 1 to 5.
A 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not wrong, but I feel like saying that every fish that you come across is an option
Mm-hmm.
for an apostolic isn't necessarily true.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a little misleading.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm also.
There are plenty of options out there, but with the apostolic faith, they're spread out very far.
Yeah, I think it's around a 2. And I don't know, like, plenty of fish in the sea. Like we don't have any way to assess like how many, numerically, how many people could you potentially be with on Earth. There's no way to like estimate that.
Yeah.
But my gut says if we're taking into account like logistics of location, values alignment, age, phase of life, physical attractiveness, there's probably less than a dozen, right? Maybe within our apostolic community of people.
I can see that.
Yeah, and who knows, right? But
it's more like a plenty of chickens in a flock.
Okay. If they're chickens, they're all the same gender. That doesn't work.
Well, you could be the rooster.
You're not doing well with the metaphors tonight, babe. I'm so sorry. It's okay. Just drink the coffee.
Don't puff my cheeks.
Yeah. So
which I've already done 3 times.
I know. So yeah, I don't love. The way that this is used, I feel like, is to be like, oh, like, don't worry about it. Like, you'll find someone. Yeah. And that's kind of insensitive to people who sometimes have been looking for years.
Yeah.
And of no fault of their own, like, there hasn't been somebody, So I feel like it's kind of insensitive.
Yeah, I agree.
All right.
Oh, gosh. When you stop looking, that's when you'll find the one.
This is a 1 for me.
That's probably a 0 if there is a 0. I don't like that advice at all.
I don't like it at all. Here's the thing. So people will tell you this about their own relationships. I've said this before, that I wasn't really, I quote unquote, wasn't really looking when you and I started dating.
Yeah.
Like I've said those words out loud before. It's not really true.
Yeah.
Because as a single person, I was always excited about an opportunity to fall in love and find a relationship and like build toward marriage. Like it was definitely something on my to-do list, right?
Yeah. I mean, there is a sentiment behind the advice of like, you can kind of stretch it to say something along the lines of like, when you stop looking is when your expectations are probably in the right place.
I think the expectations kind of, that's a good lens to kind of approach it with.
But that's kind of stretching it.
Yeah. Like I think the idea that when you stop hyper fixating on specific expectations, you're more open to whoever you meet.
Yeah, there's a level of stress that goes away, a level of being relaxed, like
Yeah.
being open to new experiences. I can see that being a thing.
You lose your tunnel vision, maybe.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay, I'm changing my number from a 0 to a 2.
I'm still keeping it at a 1
Okay, that's fine.
because I think that the key thing that bothers me about this is the idea that you should just stop looking. Like, if marriage is a priority for you, stop looking entirely.
Yeah,
And
I think it's
there's,
incomplete
I think it's, well, I
advice.
think that in particular is anti-scriptural,
Yeah,
right?
I've never actually heard that someone say that.
Really?
But, yeah.
Oh, maybe just girls get that because we're not supposed to be the pursuers. Maybe that's part of it, right? But
Oh, sure.
I don't think it's scriptural. Seek and ye shall find, right? Knock and the door will be opened unto you. Like,
That's right.
you have to take steps. You have to send Eliezer of Damascus out into the desert to go find Rebecca. Like, you have to do something. Ruth had to go work in a field, right? Like,
Yeah.
you got to put boots on the pavement and get stuff done. And I just don't think that we should encourage people to adopt a passive attitude about
Yeah,
their dating life.
that's fair.
All right.
I will.
Oh, it's my turn.
No, I will hold it for you.
Oh, okay.
Why are you cheating?
Cheating at this game where there are no points. Okay, what do we got? Oh, this one was interesting. I haven't heard this one as often, right? But I think I have heard it before. That his or her heart is the most important thing to care about. Care about their heart. Don't pay attention to their job. Don't pay attention to their education. Pay attention to their heart. I think I'm landing at about a 3.
Heart's important. But I feel like that's saying, like, when you're buying a car, sorry, I'm not comparing people to cars, but when you're buying a car, only pay attention to the transmission. You know, like, it's like,
yeah, it's
like
there's more to it.
There's more when you're looking at a car for like a purchase for a good quality, safe purchase for your family. There's more that goes into it than just the transmission. Same thing with, I feel like, with relationships. Like, the heart is definitely a core part of that. But
I think it depends too on how they're defining heart, right?
yeah,
So, like, if it's like, pay attention to their interior, not their exterior, I can get behind that.
yeah, sure.
Like, that's more important, right? If it's pay attention to their beliefs and their values and what they treasure, like, I can get behind that. But I think it could be misconstrued to, like, pay attention to how nice and kind and sweet they are and how they treat you.
Yeah.
And that should trump everything.
Yeah, if it goes deeper,
Yeah.
you can even include heart into, like, their walk with God too, if you really
like
wanted
where
to.
their heart is.
Yeah. So okay, I can see it a little bit more.
We don't have to agree about all these.
No.
I'm
not. I'm not agreeing with you. Just kidding. No, I'll take a 4 on that one probably.
Oh, really? Okay, cool.
Yeah, because the more I think about it, it applies to more than just the area I was originally thinking about.
Yeah, I do think the idea of focusing on their interior over their exterior or over, like, the trappings of success in their life is important.
Yeah, I feel like if you are tempted to be a shallow person, you could go with the route of, like, oh, they really care about puppies and want to save all the puppies in the world, like, and that's all you care about.
Right.
There's more to a person than that.
Yeah.
But if you're truly a critical thinker and you dive deep and you're willing to ask hard questions, then I feel like this statement is more applicable.
Yeah. Okay.
My turn. 1 second. I'm really enjoying flicking these.
Just please don't flick it into my coffee. That would be so sad.
Don't be so picky.
Okay. I don't think this is ever said. Like, this is like one of those things where, like, you shouldn't ask a pregnant woman if she's pregnant, right? Like,
Yeah.
there are moments where it may be true that a single person is being too restrictive in their choices.
Yeah.
It is never the job of a married person to tell them that, I don't think, unless it's their pastor, right? Or, like, a spiritual authority in their life. And then it should be said very differently.
Yeah. Again, taking this out of context, I feel like it's more of, like, what are they picky about?
So one person, this was actually mentioned multiple times, but
Yeah.
one person specifically said when it's in reference to things like whether or not they want children or like their job. And I'm like, that's
No,
extremely
those are
serious
extremely important.
because those are values.
Yeah, I'm more of like, I have to have someone that is 5'2" and also is extremely good with fashion. Like, those are things that are like nice to haves, but not need to have. So, like, to me, if that was the whole scope of what they were looking for in someone, sure, be less picky. But the important questions, I feel like you don't compromise on those important ones.
I like that having someone who's 5'2" was on your list as someone who is.
And someone with solid fashion.
I have no fashion sense, but I'm 5'1.5", so I beat your expectations.
There you go. If you round up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I would put this one. I'm gonna put this at a 2 because I think there's a core that says prioritize the right things. Right.
I think it's the intention behind the person saying don't be picky as well.
Right.
I think that's the issue.
If you're saying this to a single person, and I've heard people talk about, like, say this in reference to singles who won't date the one other available person in their church.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, you don't know their life. Like, you don't know what's going on, right?
If it's said in a passing conversation, it's probably not in the right context.
Yeah.
If it's, you know, this person and you're taking them to go get coffee and have a heart to heart and you say it in a loving way, sure.
Right. If it's hey, I think your criteria are narrowing your bandwidth too much. I've had to say this to people before in the pipeline of like, if you want to stick to that criteria, it will dramatically reduce your chances of meeting someone. Like, that's a conversation I've had on a fairly frequent basis. But that's really about saying these couple of things that you mentioned are not central to your priorities and values. They have to do with, I want to meet people in these one or two specific cities because that's where I have relatives. And it's like, I get that would make Christmas convenient, but ultimately that's probably not what you should base your whole, future on.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. Yep.
All right. Next one. This is going to be divisive. Physical attraction doesn't matter.
I mean, that's a blanket statement, but
it's a blanket statement. I don't agree.
Yeah.
But I also don't think it matters as much as people say it does.
I disagree. So if we're being objective,
Mm-hmm.
I think this is like a wanted advice.
A 1?
Yeah.
Okay.
Being objective doesn't matter.
Right.
That's not true.
That's not true.
That's
right.
not true to life.
Yeah.
But I think it shouldn't be your highest priority.
It shouldn't be your highest priority. And instantaneous physical attraction isn't necessarily where you want to set your sights.
Sure.
Right. Like, how many times have you like watched a movie where you see an actor and you're like, they're all right. And by the end of the movie, you're like, that person's actually really attractive. Or like, you meet someone, they don't register on your radar of attractiveness at all. But after you spend time with them, you can appreciate things about how they look and how they are that make them attractive.
Absolutely.
So I think that instantaneously seeing someone and thinking that they're attractive and like love at first sight does not matter and is not practical.
I 100% agree with that.
But I do think you have to be physically attracted to your spouse.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool.
But I think giving yourself time to let that build and not throwing out the baby with the bathwater if you're not immediately attracted to the person, like physically attracted to the person.
Right.
I think you're selling yourself short.
I agree with you. Your turn.
Oh,
we're going to be finding these little papers all over our house.
We're going to hear our cats going.
Yeah, that's true. Lily will have fun finding these because she likes like notes.
Yeah, Fletcher will be like, ooh.
Paper.
Yeah. Opposites attract.
Opposites attract.
Again, blanket statement. I don't think it's always thing, but I do think there is some merit to people who have certain areas of their life that tend to be opposite of the person they end up marrying. It helps balance them out in some ways, but I don't
Yeah.
think you should like specifically be looking for someone who is polar opposite of you.
Yeah. So this is like a 3 for me,
Yeah,
right? So I think that,
I agree with the 3.
yeah, I think that it's important for couples to be complementary, which often means that you'll have one member of the pair that is stronger in a certain area that the other person feels a little bit weak in.
Yeah.
Because that makes, like for you, you have a sense of direction.
Yes, you absolutely do not.
That is true. And I am,
Never rely on her to get you anywhere without a GPS.
yeah, no, it's true. I can't do it unless I am on the interstate where there's a little sign that says where I'm going, like north or south or whatever, or I am literally standing beside the ocean and know which coast I'm on.
Yeah.
I cannot tell you
Yeah.
which direction things are in.
That's very true.
I just can't. Like I do not have that. It is an area where I am weak. It is an area where you are extremely strong to the point where it's kind of obnoxious, frankly. You can just be
Our
like,
kids are picking up on it too, and like they're getting really good at it. I'm like, you're already better than mommy.
I know. It's
You're
sad.
3.
It's fine. I speak multiple languages,
That's true,
so there are pros and cons, right?
dude.
I
does the
can't get
Holy
us.
Ghost
I can't get us.
count as a language?
No, it does not. I can't get us to Mexico, but once we're there, I can communicate.
There you go.
So that's good.
See, this is why we work well.
Anyway, so I think it's important for couples to have like complementary strengths, right? And be able to kind of like,
Yeah, I'm extroverted. You're introverted.
yeah,
But what's funny is over time, I've helped you come out of your box a little bit,
Mhm.
and you've helped me
settle the heck
hide
down.
in my box a little bit more. Like now I'm like, oh, I really enjoy alone time at home.
Well, so I have a
Whereas before I was like, I always have to be out doing something.
yeah, I have a question in the consultation that basically says, the premise is that your spouse is going to change you.
Yeah.
And your spouse will have qualities that are going to rub off on you. Like
Yep.
there are aspects of their personality and habits that you will become more like. And it's very important for you to identify someone who you want to be like.
Yeah.
That was a big factor when we were getting back together. Like I was considering, if I became more like you, would I become a better person? And I thought so, because I respected your humility and your compassion for people and like
Well, thanks.
your sense of direction. That one hasn't worked.
We're still
yet.
working on your coordination.
Yeah. Yeah. It's we're never perfect.
Yeah.
It's always a work in progress. So I don't hate that advice in the sense that I do think there's some truth to it, but I think it should be taken with a grain of salt.
Sure.
Right.
Yep.
My turn.
Yep.
These are good ones, guys, by the way. Like you guys came up with a good list, I thought.
Wondering how annoying that noise is going to be on the podcast.
Oh yeah, we'll find out. This one is another one that I haven't heard tons of people say, but I like it. I feel like this is uniquely apostolic.
Okay.
I also feel like this should be read in a Southern accent. You ready? It's better to wait long than marry wrong.
That's so true.
What, the Southern accent part?
I don't know if this person listens, but I totally think of Chance Broom.
Chance. Our good friend Chance.
Yeah.
He has a where's he from? Louisiana?
Mississippi.
Oh, Mississippi. Yeah, he has a thick accent.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. I agree with this one.
Yeah.
I think it's like a 4 or 5. Maybe not a 5 because
I forgot the question.
It's better to wait long than marry wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If, again, I'm always finding
Poke holes
in this. As long as you're not using it as an excuse to never get married.
Right. I think if
hiding from marriage as a result of marrying wrong.
That's a good point, because I think people do put pressure on themselves to make a perfect choice.
Yeah, which I think is absolutely impossible.
Right. No one you pick is going to be perfect.
Yep.
Right. But I think that the idea that
I mean, you're pretty close, but
except for my sense of direction and my ability to catch things thrown at me.
That's where GPS is. Right?
Oh man, we're forming very clear online personalities as a part of this. Like you're the jock with a sense of direction, and I'm the nerd who gets lost in a brown paper bag.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyway, so I do think that like the idea though of like singleness unequivocally is difficult.
Yeah.
Our culture makes it difficult. Your emotions make it difficult. The fact that we reach a point of physical maturity so young and there's such an extended period of time before we can be in partnership with someone is difficult.
Yep.
And I think what this says is, even though that's a very difficult thing, it's more difficult to get into a marriage with someone who's not aligned with you.
Yep.
And have to fight through, the results of that choice. And having spoken to a lot of people who have been married and divorced, I think that's good advice.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I put that at 4.
Yeah. All right, your turn.
You just have to put yourself out there.
This is another one.
I agree with this one.
Okay, but I feel like when married people say it, it must be like peak
Why does
annoying.
a married person have to be saying this every time?
It doesn't have to be. Well, I think that's often what single people are like. They're often getting this advice from people who have accomplished it, right?
Yeah.
Like
Sure.
they've made it to the other side of the marriage Jordan or whatever.
but think about it. So this is the extrovert in me.
Okay.
Nowadays, these days, it's very easy to just get caught in your routine and never talk to anyone anymore. Wait, I see you getting your answer loaded. Yeah. You can go to the store and do self-checkout.
Uh-huh.
You can go to the bank and withdraw your money without talking to anyone. If you so choose to, you could sneak into the side door of your church, go to your pew, go to church, do your thing, and then leave. Like, I'm not saying that's the right thing to do. I'm just saying, like, you can do it now. I think the sentiment behind you need to put yourself out there is, if you're not interacting and talking with people and actually actively trying to have conversations with people, you're never going to find someone.
Yeah, but I hate this one because, and I'll tell you, it's like...
Sounds like a true introvert.
I know. No, they should just find me. Well, here's someone who...
All right, ma'am.
This, I think like 3 or 4 people put this one.
Yeah.
And one person very astutely was like, where exactly is out there?
Yeah, and,
like,
and that's fair.
Right. So like, what is required to put yourself out there? Like, do you want to create a classified ad? Right. You know, like if you're on the dating sites, if you're going to the conferences, if you're going to church and participating, if you're involved in ministry, is that not out there enough?
I mean, that's as out there as you can get.
Right. A lot of people are doing that and still not finding anyone.
You and I both know that there are a lot of people that just go to church every Sunday and Wednesday or Thursday or whatever your midweek service is. And they don't go to the other stuff.
Yeah, but that's not...
And they don't, and I'm not saying you have to, but I'm saying, how else are you going to find someone?
But the people who do go don't find people is the point, babe. Because we talk to them. I talk to the people that are at every single singles conference. They are so involved in singles ministry that they're not necessarily running it. They're just really actively participating. They're showing up in every way that they could possibly show up.
I don't think this advice is applicable to those people.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the hermits that are going home and playing video games. And don't get me wrong, I love me some video games. But I'm talking about the people that are not actually, they're waiting for someone to show up at the doorstep.
Okay. So I will allow that. I don't like how we characterize people that go home and play video games because I really don't think
that was just a bad example. But it could be crocheting. I don't care.
Well, no, I don't think we actually have that many people that we're working with who are actively avoiding social interaction that could lead to a dating prospect. Like, most of them are involved and they're doing stuff and they're participating, right? They might not be traveling across the country to every singles event, but they're doing what they can in the space that they have, right? So
these are not scripted, y'all.
We're not painting with any broad brushes here. No, the part that messes me up about this is like, I don't like the assumption on the part of the speaker that like all you have to do is make yourself available and it will work, right? If you stand still in the spaces that are there, you'll find someone. And it's like, first of all, we know that the spaces that we offer singles are not good for connection.
Yeah.
Right. So even if they are going to every event, it's not designed for them to meet somebody.
No.
Right.
I think the part of the problem with these questions is it depends on the context and who you're talking to.
Yes, I know. It's open to interpretation. That's why I thought this would be fun.
Yeah.
But now I'm just getting annoyed at you.
You're stuck with me, so it's fine.
It's true. So, okay, let me round out my score. I will give this a 2. instead of a 1 like I was going to give it, because I do agree with you that it is important for people to be active participants in dating and
Mm-hmm.
not like, I'm going to quote a friend of mine who, when I did her consultation, she was like, yeah, like I turned 21 and I just expected a guy to show up and start singing to me. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And she was laughing about that, recognizing that that wasn't like a view that made sense.
Yeah.
So I do think that there is something to be said for, you have to actively participate in the process of finding someone.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to do one analogy. Sorry. And caveat it with when you go shopping,
Uh-huh.
if you just go shopping for the sake of going shopping, me personally, if I don't have a list or like an idea of what I need,
It's a
it's a
disaster.
terrible day, and I'm there forever, and I end up wandering the aisles aimlessly, and I end up finding way more stuff than I actually need.
Accurate.
So that being said, if you are just showing up to places and you don't know who you are, you don't know what you're looking for in a person, I think it is going to be significantly harder to find someone. I'm not saying that there's not people out there,
Okay.
but I'm saying you have to have an action plan of who you are. I'm not saying you have to have an itemized list of what you're looking for in a person.
Right.
But that being said, I think when you're going to said store,
You have to have a plan.
you have to have a plan.
Yeah.
And I think I agree with you. Just showing up to these places and standing in the middle of the aisle, you're not going to get anything done.
Right.
If you're car shopping again. Ideally, you have something about that car. You need something out of a vehicle. When we
Most
were
people
shopping for a
show up.
vehicle,
You show up to a dealership saying, "I want to look at this model of
yeah,
car."
or like I want a minivan because I need this many seats. It needs to be able to
Right.
it needs to have certain capacity capabilities. I want certain fuel efficiencies.
Typically, don't need a minivan until after you get married, by the way. But
Yeah, that's fair. Hey, if I were single, I would still buy a minivan.
they will pry the wheel of my minivan out of my cold dead hands. It is so nice.
If I were single and I had no kids, I would still want a minivan. They're fantastic.
They're so comfortable.
And they have so much room.
Yeah.
Anyways, but that's what I'm saying. Like, if you just show up to a dealership, you're going to leave with a Buick
Or leave with nothing.
or with a BMW.
Right, because
Like,
you
don't
end
know
up
what
in
you want.
analysis. You end up in analysis paralysis, where it's like there's too many options.
So I think if you are just like aimless with your self-reflection,
Mm-hmm.
if you're aimless with like critical thinking about yourself and who you want in a person, I think you're right. I think you're going to show up and you're not going to leave empty-handed every single time.
You make a good point, which is that when we're talking about making a plan, I like the differentiation of a plan versus a list. Like,
Yeah.
we're not talking about, oh, he needs to be 6'5", blue eyes, work
Yeah.
in finance. It's like he needs to be, someone who fits these values, and I need to figure out a plan for how I'm going to identify those in people,
Yep.
right? I'm going to start a conversation with someone. I'm going to find people with mutual friends and ask them to introduce us. I'm going to ask about their interests. I'm going to, observe worship. I'm going to whatever, like, come with a plan of how you're going to identify the things that are important to you in someone.
And if you're working on yourself as well and you've identified your dating barriers,
Mhm.
shameless plug.
Yeah.
And you already know that there's some things that you're working on in yourself, you're going to walk into this conversation with someone, a rock star, and I'm
Mhm.
saying that because like you're confident, you've been working on yourself, you've been thinking about what you want, you're looking for that kind of connection and interaction. I think it will go smoothly.
Yeah, so we have 2 resources actually that would be really good to plug right here. So one is the Dating Barriers course that Stephen just mentioned, which you can purchase if you're not already involved in the Synchrony community. If you've already had a consultation and you're subscribed to the community, it's in there for free for you.
Yep.
It's under the challenges, and you can go take it and kind of work to identify those things. So that's really amazing. Also the 10-minute connection guide.
Yep.
Which is linked in the bio or in the description. And that's a great way just to help you learn how to frame a first conversation.
Yep.
I've had so much fun. We also created a challenge around that in the community where people have been using that structure to just, practice having conversations with people they've never met before.
Yeah.
And I'm having so much fun watching people talk about who they're connecting with at their car dealerships or at the grocery store.
Yeah.
And they're getting to know people and seeing them as human in a way that they wouldn't have otherwise.
I like what you said at one point when you were first making this connection guide. It's the same skills that you use to
Mhm.
connect with someone is also the same skills that you use to try to witness to someone.
Yeah.
Like it's like if you are paralyzed in fear about talking to a boy or a girl,
Right.
the opposite sex, and say like having a heart to heart conversation, look at it from a perspective of like trying to go out and talk to someone about Jesus.
Right. Trying to make a
And
friend.
and that way it's less pressure. If they
Mhm.
say no, it's okay. It's that's their choice.
Yeah.
And you have hundreds of opportunities each day to
Yep.
practice that skill. I guarantee you, if you practice that skill, you'll get better at talking to other people too about
Absolutely.
relationships.
Okay, you brought me around on that one a little bit.
That's right.
It's my turn now, right? Okay. Don't settle.
Oh wait, I didn't number the last one.
Oh, okay.
What was the question?
Don't worry about it. We'll just, it's fine. The last one was about putting yourself out there.
4. 4 for putting yourself out there.
Okay. I'm going to reread this one so that we can.
That's fine.
Okay. Okay. This one is don't settle. We talked about this a couple episodes ago.
I agree.
I agree.
I say probably a 4. I think there's some. I think there are some. Words are hard.
Caveats.
Boundaries. Yeah, some exceptions to the rule.
Yeah.
But I agree.
Yeah, I'm gonna give this one a 3 because I could go either. I've heard this used and abused before.
Oh, sure.
Right? So I think where I agree, you should not settle for someone who does not align with your priorities. Those should be pretty uncompromising, right? Your values should. Excuse me, I said priorities. I meant values and priorities. But
Yeah.
when I say values, I mean the things that really matter to who you are as a person and the mark you want to leave on the world. Priorities are things like, your specific calling and your location and like whether or not you need to stay in a certain place because of your custody arrangements, right? Like things that are just critically important to how you interact with people and the kind of partner that would be viable for you.
Yeah.
You shouldn't compromise on those. Like, don't settle for someone who does not align with your priorities because you're worried that they're going to be the only one there.
Yep.
Right. But I think on the flip side, it gets misused to say,
set your expectations really high.
And don't settle for anyone less than perfect for you.
Yes.
And that I think is problematic.
Yeah.
Because there is no one perfect for you.
Yeah, if you have this like invisible 20-tier checklist of what your wife or husband is going to look like and they do not meet every single one of those, you throw them out. I think that's a bad call.
Also, ladies.
Talking to the mic.
Ladies. I know that if you have a healthy relationship with your dad, he is the best person on earth, right? And he might have taken you on daddy-daughter dates and have held the door open for you. And he might have talked to you about car maintenance and finances. And he might have set you up for complete success. And he might be the absolute pinnacle of masculinity in your mind, right? Please stop holding every guy, no matter his age or stage in life, up against your father and going, if he's not equal to my dad in terms of what he's capable of and the level of respect I have for him, he's not worth my time.
Yeah.
Like, that is an unrealistically high bar to set.
Yeah.
Also,
it's also taken your dad however many years, 15, 20, 30, 40 years,
right,
to become who he is today.
Spoiler, having you made him that way.
Yeah.
Like,
touche.
Yeah, like having children and becoming a parent transforms you.
Yeah.
You and I are very different people than we were before we had kids.
Oh yeah. We're a lot like, this is not to toot our own horn, but we're a lot less selfish.
It's like my graduate, I don't know if I've quoted this before. Dr. Hackett, shout out to Dr. Hackett, who is probably never listening to this, but he was my graduate thesis advisor at UF. And when I told him that we were getting engaged, he was so excited for me. And his advice to me, he had married later in life and had children later in life. his advice to me immediately was, have your children young, because children are a deliverance from the obsession with self.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, that's academic gobbledygook. Like,
yeah. Like, all right, Yoda.
I'm like, okay, Mr. Arm elbow patches. But like, looking back now, having had our children, it was profoundly true.
That's 100% true.
You get to give up. You gladly abandon your focus on yourself.
Okay, it's 100% true. If your goal is to try to impart the best parts of yourself.
Yes.
And also work on the worst parts of yourself to become a better parent.
Right, to shield your children from experiencing your faults while also gifting them with your
I'm not saying completely
abilities.
Shield them from the worst parts of yourself. I'm
Right.
just saying, like, if you're actively trying to become a better person every day as a result of being a better influence on your kids, I think it's 100% true.
And we acknowledge that not everyone has a dad who has met that standard, right?
Yeah.
But ladies, like, your dad is so awesome and so great, and he was not that put together when your mom found him.
Oh, it's true.
Go ask. Ask what he was like when they first got married and what marriage and parenting polished out of him.
Yeah.
You know, and consider
ask him. Talk to him about it too.
Yeah.
Because you see this golden version of him that maybe might get mad at you every once in a while, but like I promise you, if you ask him what he was like when he was 20, 25, 30, those are the guys that you're probably like, ugh, right now. I'm not sorry, guys. No, but that's true though. That's what I mean though. Like,
right. If you, I think what you're trying to say is, if you encountered a man who had all the qualities that your dad had at the same age and stage of life, you might not be impressed with him immediately. Yes. Or you might not go, "Ooh, that guy's just like my dad." Yeah. Right.
It's the goal is he teachable? Not in the sense of like beatable. Like,
not can I change him and mold him into my dad? That's
weird. He someone who is willing to critically think about himself and his actions? Is he willing to learn? Is he moldable? And is he focusing on allowing God to work on him?
Yeah.
All those things are kind of redundant, but still to the point, because that's the person that is going to become the best version of themselves.
Right. And we're saying, you know, girls comparing men to their dads, but the same goes true for,
vice versa.
You know, men who compare women to their mothers, right? Like, and we're not trying to be weird and Oedipal. It's just that those are the relationships that build our sense of who we are.
Yeah. And honestly, it's our closest view of what a relationship is.
Yeah.
Healthy or not.
Right. If you grew up in a household where both of your parents were together at any point and were interacting, that has dramatically shaped your vision for what marriage is going to be like, for better or for worse.
Yep.
So yeah, hold off on the parental comparisons.
Use it as a goalpost. Don't use it as like
the end all and be all.
The end all and be all. Yeah.
Your turn. Did you ever rate that one?
Probably not. What was it again?
Don't settle. I said 3.
I think I said like a 4.
Okay.
Which, again, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
When you meet the one, you'll just know.
Yes. When you meet the single person on earth that could fulfill all your hopes and dreams, a small inside alarm will start going off quietly to the tune of When You Wish Upon a Star, and suddenly the skies will open, the angels will sing, seraphim and cherubim will descend.
Well, so I agree with everything you're saying, and
right.
I think this is actually a ridiculous statement.
Yeah.
But I remember very specifically after leaving Froyo, I think the first night.
Sure.
I was on my way home. My sister was driving next to me in a separate car. I rolled down the window after spending a couple hours talking to you that night. And I was joking, but I liked you this much to where I actually made this joke. I was like, I think I found my wife. Which
is very cute, but you were not ready to propose to me right then.
100% no.
Yeah.
But I knew there was qualities about you that I really, really, really enjoyed.
Right. You saw potential in our interaction.
Yeah.
Which is fine.
Meanwhile, it took you a month to realize I was even pursuing you.
Well, meanwhile, it took you a month to answer my package with a song in it and a handwritten letter telling you that I wanted to be with you for the rest of my life.
After you broke my heart
Anyway, my point is, you don't just know, right? It takes time.
No, you don't.
You don't just know. And you have doubts. Like,
yeah, 100%.
we talked about how I think that
Sorry.
I think that the reason why values alignment while you're dating is so important, and one of the reasons is that there will always be a point in your marriage where something happens early on and you have to ask yourself the question, did I make the right choice?
Yeah.
And that will happen in every relationship at some point. For me, it was
when you first moved to West Palm before we were married.
Okay, hold on. I have to tell the story. So,
oh boy.
So Stephen found, so we were engaged and I was moving down to West Palm where we were going to live after we got married, like a couple of months before the wedding to kind of get our apartment set up.
Yeah.
And I had been living on my own. So I had a whole U-Haul full of stuff that I was bringing with me. But Stephen had rented the apartment. You had signed the lease and then you had...
It was like 3 weeks or a month prior to you moving. So I was like, I'm going to move into this place.
Right. Yeah. We did not live in the same apartment before we got married, but Stephen like temporarily camped out in it for a few weeks.
Quite literally.
Yeah. So I pack up all my stuff and my dad drives the U-Haul down for me. And I walk in with like my cat in a carrier and like, I have all these, pieces of decor and rugs and like furniture that I'm going to put out here. Right. And I get into the apartment and all there is are 2 camping chairs, like fold out camping chairs, and a big purple Tupperware tote with a big TV on it and an Xbox and fast food bags everywhere. And my dad, to his immense credit, saw the expression on my face and grabbed my hand and said, "I'm so sorry, baby. I didn't prepare you for this." Like, and he was serious as a heart attack. Like, because my dad has always been, kept his like messes kind of out of the way of my mom for the most part.
I mean, his trucks, like whenever he's by himself, like it happens to him too. Like, it's,
but
I appreciate it.
He was just like, "I'm so sorry, baby. I didn't prepare you for this." And I was just like, "Daddy," like it smelled like boys because all of your like dude friends had been hanging out, like playing video games and eating junk food.
Oh yeah,
it was
full
gross.
Fast food every day.
It's like moving into a frat house.
Like I knew I wasn't going to be living there because you were moving into it.
Right.
So I was like, I never bought groceries. I just survived on Bud's chicken and seafood and McDonald's.
Yeah, and ramen. It was gross. Where did we start with this? What was the point? What was the question?
Not love at first sight. When you know, you'll know. Or
No, you don't know. And even after you get married, you will have moments where you don't know, and you have to be convinced about the fact that you made the right choice, because you have to. If you are intentional about your choice, if you're prayerful about your choice, if you hold your choice of partner up against your values and up against Scripture, you can answer that question to yourself with a yes, right?
Yep.
But you've got to do that work beforehand.
That's right.
My turn.
Yep.
We're getting close to the end. Just a few more. Okay. This is an interesting one. Never date someone you can't see yourself marrying.
Oh, that's a 5.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a 5.
I agree. I'm gonna give it a 4 because I think that sometimes people again interpret that to mean like never date someone who falls slightly short of your criteria.
Yeah, but I think if there are big red flags, just know that there's going to be red flags in your marriage too.
Right. So don't try to ignore it. Like,
ignore it and
change.
I can work it out of him or her. Right. I think that's something you should address right away. If it's something that's I don't think you should create a situationship within your own relationship, right?
Right.
And just basically be like, oh yeah, well, I'll just ignore it. I really enjoy this company and I've already invested so much time. I don't want to hurt them. And then you just string them on for 5 or 6, 10 months, a year longer. So I think you should know like, well, no, marriage is the goal for this relationship. Yeah. If this is a big enough problem, cut it off and keep on going.
Yeah. You have to be like at someone's worst, or, you have to be able to accept the worst version of their right now and live with it. You don't have to like their worst version. Right. But you have to be able to say like, I can handle this person on a bad day.
Yeah.
And I don't think that means, just to caveat one more thing, I don't think that means that you have to like spend 10 years dating them and see
No.
how do they act in traffic, and how do they act when they have a chronic illness, and how do
Yeah.
they
Oh,
act
sure.
when they stub their toe, and how do they act when they go on a mission trip. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think you have to see them in every single challenging scenario that could ever exist to figure that out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you do need to kind of see them in their highs and lows.
I think that's solid advice to at least set the bar for.
Yeah.
I think there are exceptions to the rule.
Yeah.
Ooh, only 2 left.
Yep.
It will happen when you least expect it. This is kind of like the when you stop looking.
Yeah. It's similar. I don't like this one.
Yeah. Let's tear it apart a little bit. Let's try to figure out.
Like, hindsight is 20/20, right? Like,
Yeah.
I think it's true that sometimes you'll meet someone, you'll be like, wow, I never saw that coming. But it's you're retroactively applying that.
This is kind of like the advice of like, waiting for someone to show up to your doorstep, right?
Mhm.
I think you should be actively looking for someone. I think you should be actively working on yourself. I think you should be actively talking with God about this.
Mhm.
And yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's an active process. I don't think it's going to be passively just showing up.
Right. I mean, I do think that sometimes connection happens in unprecedented places.
Oh, sure.
Right. And that's fine. You know, be open and willing to entertain a conversation with someone in a place where you might not normally pause. Right.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Now, people just coming to matchmaking for the first time, they're going to end up finding someone that they're going to marry, and it's not exactly what they were expecting because they had their doubts about matchmaking.
That's true, but I'm pretty sure once they sign up, they really have a very clear expectation that I feel the weight of their expectations.
Yeah.
I'm trying really hard, guys. Hey, you know how many dates we have this week?
How many?
3.
Hey.
Just this week. And I'm in the process of scheduling 4 more.
Let's go.
I'm excited.
All the weddings.
All the wedding. Well, all the dates. No pressure, guys.
Sorry, no pressure.
Anyway, okay. Last one. Last but not least. Drum roll, please. I just want to see her arms get tired. This is a good one to end on. There's someone for everyone.
Oh, that's 100% true.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Why do you say that?
I mean, that's scriptural.
How?
Oh, boy.
Defend your point.
I'm not going to quote this right, but like, for it's not God's will for us to be alone.
Oh,
right?
Well, it wasn't good for man to be alone in the garden.
Yeah, I know, and I think that still stands.
Yeah.
I think that still stands. If it stands for Adam, I think it stands for the rest of the men. That being said, I know there are some people that feel called to celibacy and singleness, and that's totally fine. But I absolutely believe that there's always someone out there for you.
I think that if you are a person who feels called to live in partnership,
Yep.
which I think is the majority of Christian people.
Yeah.
I was just talking to someone about this tonight, actually. One of our community members has just blessed me. Like, she's such a teacher, and like she always like we were doing a follow-up call for her consultation, and she was just like pouring in like scripture into me, and I was like, oh, this is so amazing. I'm like, wait a minute, we have to talk about you. But we were talking about how the design of the Lord for marriage is to reflect his relationship to the church, right?
Yeah.
And how when God created male and female, humanity did not truly reflect the image of God, and was not called good until it had both that male and female component to it.
Yeah.
Right? The identity of God in humanity is a duality of male and female working together in partnership to strengthen each other and to reflect the relationship between Christ and the church. And I do think that there is a call in most of us to fulfill that.
Yeah.
And I do not believe that God would put that in there without giving us the ability to go and create that partnership.
Yeah.
I do not believe this. I'll give it a 4 for this reason. Sometimes I think people use that to perpetuate soulmate ideas.
Oh, no, yeah. I don't
You know, that like God has created the one.
Yeah.
I don't believe in the one.
No, it goes back to the advice my pastor gave me. Like, I think there's 1,000 women in this world, not specifically 1,000.
A dozen.
That I could theoretically be doing the will of God in with them. Obviously, prior to me being married.
Yeah, not at the same time
not
either.
Currently.
We're not that kind of.
Yeah,
of
I'm
Christian.
not. I'm not Solomon.
Yeah.
But it's just what you do in your marriage that constitutes whether it's the will of God. So I think it's just what's up to you as to whether you're going to be happy with this. Choose to be happy with this person.
Yeah.
And I think it's where you set that bar, right?
And if you're a single person and you hear someone say, "Oh, there's someone for everyone," and you feel and have felt for a long time, well, then why can't I find anybody?
Yeah.
Right. Again, I know we've said this before, but I just want to reaffirm it. It's not you.
No.
Like, we're in a culture that is plagued by a lack of connection and real logistical challenges to meeting people. And, I think that we live in a fallen world, and there are Christians who struggle with oppression, and there are Christians who struggle with spirits, and there are Christians who struggle with the challenges of living in a difficult economic or social situation, and there are Christians who struggle with loneliness.
Yeah.
I don't believe it's the will of God, but if you're struggling with it, it's not because there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
And by the grace of God, hopefully we'll be able to help people find someone that they could build a great life with over time.
These were fun.
Yeah, these were fun. Thank you everyone who submitted cliches. I thought it was a really great response.
Again, if you have more that were not mentioned, throw them in the comments and we'll take note of them and maybe do a part 2 to this.
Yeah. Let's take a moment to actually ask for a favor with that too. It would be really helpful for us if you guys could get involved on our YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Even if you usually listen to this on a podcast, if you could go like and subscribe to the channel if you use YouTube at all, or throw a comment on the video, that really helps.
Yep.
A lot of our male constituents are coming to us from YouTube.
Yep.
And so the more engagement we get there, the more outreach we get to guys, the more men we have come into the pipeline, the more matches that we can make. And we're excited about that. So that would be a huge help to us. Like, subscribe, add comments, engage with the videos.
Leave reviews. Those really help too.
Share them. That would be really helpful if you find one that speaks to you. Share this with your friends or your singles group and ask what they think about it.
Yeah.
That'd be kind of cool to see, how your circle feels about these cliches.
Yeah. And we might be completely opposite of how you guys feel. And that's okay.
Yeah. Anything else we need to announce or talk about?
I don't think so. Nothing super pressing.
Cool. All right. Hey, babe. I love you.
I love you.
Thank you for arguing with me.
No. Having a conversation.
No, it's a little argument, but that's okay. Couples have to argue a little bit.
Oh, sure. It's
like,
you can choose how you choose to argue.
Yeah.
That's different.
The Gottmans would say you have to fight right.
Yeah.
Which we do.
Brother Luma and Sister Luma said never disrespect one another.
Yeah. I never feel disrespected by you.
Yeah.
Unless you talk about my sense of direction, in which case, just kidding.
Oh, but that's completely disrespectable.
Honestly, it's just fact at this point. There's no disputing it. It's just, it is what it is.
Yeah.
I'm glad that our children have inherited somewhat of your internal compass.
Well, we'll see. They're 4 and 2.
Yeah.
We'll find out.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Well, I love you.
I love you too.
Thanks, y'all. We'll see y'all next week.
Have a great week.
Bye.
Bye.